My job when I first met Pat Moran and some of the other ODOT people, why don't we just hit it's just right there.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Aren't you glad I'm not going to be placing signs anymore?
Well, anyway, so I that was my job 10 years ago, and so now I'm out in Region 5, and in the 10 years between when I was working doing the statewide inner city network and I moved to this place, which that's Anthony Lake's Willow Whitman National Forest behind. This is in the Hells Canyon area. There's now 5 fixed route transits. There's 2 local small inner city programs, one that runs through the ceded tribal lands, the traditional lands for the Umatilla, and then in the Scenic Bikeway that we have in Baker City, LeGrand, we have the Baker Bow. And so I thought I would show you. This is the area that I work in, and these are the transit systems in the area. And you can see the red dots are where we have transit systems. I've always, because I am a cyclist, even when I was doing the inner city program, one of the things that I emphasized when I was working with communities or buying buses was bike accessibility as part of it. And there's really good bike accessibility here. The intercity operators, Greyhound is probably the worst as far as bike accessibility. They need boxes to put bikes on the buses. Most of the others are going to just put it on the bus itself, where they have the wheelchair stations. There's room sometimes, or they have bike racks, and I'm working with them to get their bike racks up to speed. So, you sort of can see the variety that these things are, all in one place, and so it's not just co-location. There's some coordination, and the concept is that. We're piloting this project with the Grand Tour. So here's North Powder, and that, if you look at the state bike map, bikeway map, you can see that that's the point where the Grand Tour intersects I-84. That's also the point where you turn off the freeway to go up to Anthony Lakes. That's also a transit stop and a potential, there's some right-of-way, ODOT owns right-of-way all over. And that is available for people to park in legally, but sometimes people need signs to know that that's legal. And we're going to see if we can put up a kiosk for the Grand Tour Bikeway that then can also signify the park and ride access and the transit access. And we're planning on using QR codes because the people in my region have found QR codes and they say, oh my gosh, that's so great. We can change the information and not have to reprint everything. A couple of seniors went to the transit manager in Milton Freewater and asked her why they didn't have QR codes on all their signs. So, information comes from all places. So Alex and I were talking about this, and I ended up talking to Sheila about this, and we'd like to look for ways that we can bring these programs together to support using the state infrastructure. But also, if you're doing the Grand Tour and you only want to go for the smaller loop, or you only want to do part of a loop, letting you know or letting people know that they can get on a bus and either start their ride or end their ride with a ride back to their cars or back to their house. And that's all over the state. And one of the things that's very cool about Oregon is all the transit that's fixed route is on Google Transit. So if you're caught out in the middle of nowhere and you have your phone and you have access to your smartphone, you can go on Google Maps, select transit, and it'll bring up when the next schedule is for the bus nearest you. So, it's not a perfect thing. This isn't this is so simple. But I think now that we're talking about it and looking at it, it can become part of the discussion and part of the way we develop the infrastructure to support this great idea of scenic bikeways. So that's my presentation.
Thank you.
Really, yeah. Uh-oh.
I'm just so excited that the idea of multi-permeability has come up with this new bikeways, because I'm one of the younger, maybe millennial generation that doesn't own a car or run a and actually prefer to take a bus or a train to a location. And it seems like that's enough to like have to rent a car and then just to start a bike ride. So we love it if there was a way to get people to so the bike on board and then that's a great way to or gateway to whatever.
Well, one of the big demand areas for bike racks is the enterprise. They have all sorts of bikes that are being on there. So do that route. Pretty well over it. And then there's just people that use it in rural areas and the buses don't go so far. And where you were, where you're going, there's people on that. So it really extends your access to the community. And with this service that, the Grand Tour we're looking at, it's just a nice figure eight, and the point where that cover housing is all the way transit there, the city direct powder is interested. It's a way to bring people who are working on supporting your community and recreation resources. Anthony likes to see them, and they've been promoting avidly the Start Less Tent with the scooter. So, we're really looking forward to find out some of these ideas, and Jason will come out and travel with Carlos again.
Okay, thank you. There's going to be a slight change in the agenda, and our next break is at 2 o'clock, but if you need to, just on your own, go ahead and take a quick break. But this is a very exciting part of the agenda. It's about the bicycle-friendly business. Am I skipping something? Okay. I just want to make sure, because you saw how scattered I got. I keep looking at the agenda. What am I forgetting to talk about? So we're going to go to the bicycle-friendly businesses first. And this is Scott Bricker. He is consulting with Travel Oregon. He's with Bricker Consulting. Before this, he was with... Oh, talk about scattered. I only left this on in case somebody needed to find me who couldn't find the meeting.
You want to help me out here?
Before this, he was with the Bicycle Transportation Alliance. He is also the executive director for America Walks. So take it away.
I just need some help with the flash drive here for
I'll
a
bring it
sec.
up.
Okay, so it's on this one. There's two flash drives in there right now.
Which one is yours?
Actually, well,
This
I don't
one?
know.
Take mine now if you want to.
There's definitely, hi, thank you.
Mine's Kingston, his is the other
30
one.
seconds, but I have about 20 of these printed up, which means you really probably have more like one per table than one per person. So please make
It's
sure at
CD,
least
that's
every
not
table
it.
gets one copy of these. I didn't
He's got a flash
print out enough
drive.
for everyone here.
Why does it not show?
We can just take out.
Yeah, here it
Sheila's
is.
first.
Is this it? Nope, this isn't it either. This is not it.
I don't know, but I don't think that's me.
Hold on. There are two flash drives.
Yeah.
We can pull out this bottom one.
Yeah.
I mean, you should usually just do eject it, but
Because like, there's zero food left in the back. Like, not even a crumb. Oh, there's some sweet stuff still if you wanna. So my name is Scott Bricker. I know many of you by working with you or by sight, just in some of the workshops we've been doing. Really exciting, exciting to be here. Exciting energy is what's going on in Oregon. This is completely unique. In addition to doing some of the workshops, I'm working with Travel Oregon and a number of other folks, and I have a list of folks in the presentation, to help create a program to recognize businesses that care about cyclists. And effectively, what we say is, why would a business care about cyclists? Well, I think we've heard some of the numbers today. We eat a lot, we know that. We're powered by food. We move slowly, as some of Russ and Laura's videos have shown us. We like to stay in places and hang around and linger. So we're really good customers. We have money. But the businesses, we're trying to create a program that would recognize businesses who care about us, who want to bring us in and say, yeah, we want you to stay. We want you to enjoy, eat, drink, whatnot. And this is really based on some of the work that Mike has done and John Day. When we went around the state and have been doing these workshops, we've consistently heard a desire to educate businesses as well as have those businesses be recognized and have some kind of element to show them off. So under this contract that we're doing with Travel Oregon to create a bike-friendly recognition program, and this is sort of in this document, but really the purpose is to work with and highlight businesses through Oregon to make our state a top road and dirt cycling tourism destination and to enhance the quality of life for locals. So that's our purpose. And we have three, actually this is a desired outcomes or visions, I should say on the top. We really have three areas that we're talking about with this program. One, which are the businesses. We want the businesses to have knowledge. We want them to make efforts to enhance travelers' experiences, to build positive customer relationships, and provide services. So this isn't just about an emblem. This is about actually having these businesses have a mindset. In many ways, bike friendly is like, hey, welcome. I mean, you know, probably that is the most important thing. Bring your bike in would even be more. The bicycle traveler, we want to make sure that they're well informed, and there are lots of communications channels to do that. You've heard about some of them. I'll kind of run through a little bit more this afternoon on that too. We want them to be well informed about the services that will enhance their trip. And ultimately, we want them to report back their interactions. Right? Have you heard, you know, the person who had the bad experience goes and tells 9 people. You know, but when people have good experiences, they also give you the thumbs up and they like you on Facebook and they go and tell their friends and whatnot. And so we want this to be a part of that effort where people, they come back, but they also tell their friends. And then for the state, that this is an effort for the state to effectively communicate the business assets and the customer experiences through some coordinated branding. And so as Mike was saying, maybe at some point his 2 wheels spoken here will become bicycle-friendly signs. But the idea is something that's recognizable around the state of Oregon. I'm going to focus first on the businesses. And again, just that they have knowledge, that they build relationships, and they provide services. This document sort of outlines what that process is. So there's a process that businesses will have to go through. Travel Oregon is the home and hub for this program. They will effectively have a website that businesses will go to and go through a process of education around the cycling, about the cyclist. We're working actually with Russ and Laura on developing a couple of videos. We're going to develop a 15 to 20 minute total online webinar that will include two videos, so 2 to 3 minute videos, two 2 to 3 minute videos, plus some webinar content about the economics of cyclists, what, you know, who are they, what kind of money they have, what do they like to spend, where do they like to eat and sleep, and all that kind of stuff. So some kind of like going through some of that information that we give at our workshops. If you're to get this recognition, you have to watch that webinar so you get educated. We really want people to get some level of education. And that will also educate businesses on, you don't have to be an expert, but where can you direct the cycling customer to get more information? It could just be go to Ride Oregon Ride. And there are lots of other websites that you could point people to, as well as other information that's out there. In addition to that, they'll be required to take some kind of educational quiz. Most likely the quiz will not be particularly challenging in the sense of really hard questions that you have to study for hours, but more about trying to have an education reinforcement tool for them to complete. We will have some questions that might not be no-brainers, but ultimately another educational opportunity. So they take this webinar, this online record webinar, they take this quiz, and then they effectively get recognized as a bike-friendly business. So what does this look like? Well, you've sort of seen the logo already, and actually, apparently this is, I haven't even seen this. This is the sign. So basically what it's going to look like is that there'll be a couple of different creative aspects, but every business that completes this recognition process, relatively straightforward, easy process with maybe a small fee, will get a window decal for free. In addition, they will be able to apply or purchase a metal sign such as this, and on that sign they will be able to choose up to 4 decals, and I'll show you the full set of decals in just a second, or icons. And these are the things that your business provides, or the top things you want to state they provide. You may provide lots of things, but up to 4 you could choose. So this could be posted out front of your building. As I showed that picture from John Day, it could be on a signpost, it could be whatnot. But so this is recognizable and something that hopefully we'll see in businesses around the state. I don't know where to put that. Yes.
How does this fit with, like, I'm in town in the city of Salem, there's pretty big signs, because I'm now on. But are they going to put it up?
Kristen.
Yeah, so we'll be working with a firm to help us negotiate some of the regulations to make sure that our communities are following them. But by and large, it should be a business signage that fits well within the parameters of the subject. But as you can tell just from our last conversation, there's so many different jurisdictions. I mean, we have people participating on the Old West route already through Mike's program, people spoken here. That's out on it's not within the city limits, and so there will be different parameters for each, area. So I guess we'll be providing some kind of a handbook or something with this. Not a handbook, but some general guidelines on who to check with, how to make sure. But so far, I don't think Mike's had too much feedback on his program. Nobody's taken him down yet. You guys, a little more isolated out there.
And mine will be taken on in the
Okay. And that might not be allowable. So, I mean, there will be.
All right, well, it's a good point. And Chris, if you guys take a note on that, that'd be great. Thank you. So here are the, in our committee, we had a work team. Again, I'll recognize the work team at the end here that went through all this stuff and helped us out, and from Travel Oregon staff to a bunch of volunteers who were here. But these are the icons that we're currently planning on using for the program. So restrooms, showers, camping, Wi-Fi, dining, shipping. You could see, you could basically see what we're looking at here. So basically on the application, there would be a checklist. What are the services that you provide? And that could all be stored on an online presence. But then if you order the sign, what are the 4 that you want for your sign?
Do you have a cost of those signs yet, or do you know how much?
Yeah, and we $35, right? So it's not clear totally yet. Kristen's shaking her head no. And actually, I'd like to get through the presentation too. Go, Kristen. Yeah.
I can answer some of that.
Yeah. Well, why don't you just answer that right now and then?
Okay, it was a range right now. We're still figuring it out because what we want to do is not actually provide you with the details, but actually make each sign to order.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a long story. Yeah, but it'll be between $35 and $50 is what we're expecting.
Right. Okay. So I do want to spend a little bit of time also. I guess one other thing is that we will be looking at lodging properties slightly differently than everyone else. So the key thing for a lodging property, basically, and a requirement for the lodging property, is that they have a secure long-term storage for your bicycle. People are not just riding $200 bicycles; they're riding $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 bicycles. They don't want to leave it out in the rain, whatnot. So whether it's in your room or in a locked place, as well as we want lodging properties to be able to refer people at least to information, whether it's just rideoregonride.com. For everyone else, for restaurants and whatnot, it's in some ways more about friendly attitude, but we do want them to have a short-term place for you to store your bike. So the short-term is really, that's kind of like what is a short-term place to store your bike. Could be bring it in, it could be a rack, a staple rack, it could just be a signpost. But really we're trying to educate them to be friendly and to want your business. I do want to spend a couple minutes on the traveler and on the state. Again, the well-informed and reporting their interactions and having Oregon effectively communicate. I do think that rideoregonride.com is a great resource, and the intention is to get the bike-friendly program on Ride Oregon Ride or some version of that. I don't know if Travel Oregon's totally figured out how it's going to sync up with that, but basically that you'd be able to get information about the bike-friendly program through Ride Oregon Ride, but also you get information about what businesses are on there through that program, so that there would be a communication portal two-way, as well as the lodging piece. And I think that, again, that's going to be really important. There'll also be linked to other sites: Pathless Pedal, Bike Portland, IMBA, International Mountain Biking Association, Adventure Cycling, the different groups that have interesting information about bicycle tourism and travel. So, and my PowerPoint, there was a little fade-in of going from Mike's sign to the bike-friendly sign, just as kind of a little joke. But so, basically, we know that we bring money, and we want to consume and all that stuff, and we know that businesses want our money, and so this project is basically to help us with that. I do want to, again, recognize people who are on the committee. So Travel Oregon staff, including Kristen and Jamie and Harry, who's not actually on this list, but did come in a couple meetings. The creative Holly and Amy, Russ and Laura spent a ton of time on this. Thank you. Mike, who traveled and was on the phone and brought brownies, and we missed you when you weren't in Portland. Jay from Clackamas County, Evan Ross from Portland Bicycle Tours, Blaine, who's been really great informations guy from West Lynn, Alex, of course, and Tom Roscoe, who is with the BTA now with Vanilla Bicycle. So I just want to really recognize and thank you guys for all your effort on this project. And my contact information is up there, or you could just contact Kristen as well if you have any other questions. But really, you could ask direct questions to me, but if you really have like hard-nosed questions. The other thing, I guess, that I wanted to state is that this program, the intention for this program is to have a pilot soon, like June-ish, with a more formal rollout probably a couple months after that. But Kristen could also talk a little bit more about the potential rollout time. So this is, so thank you. I'd love to take Q&A and well, actually, yeah, Laura, go for it, right.
I just want to make a quick plug. Like Scott mentioned, we're helping out with some of the educational components. So we're actually going to be filming 2 little short videos that will be part of the educational component for the businesses. So one of the things that we are actually looking forward to, and we're going to do this it, are businesses who are bike friendly that would be interested in talking on camera for just a very short time about why they chose to be bike friendly, why cyclists make good customers, what does it mean to be bike friendly, those sorts of things. Keep in mind, of course, we're in Portland, so as much as we would like to travel to Sailor Grand, interview people that might not be feasible. But if you have any suggestions, we would love to hear them.
More?
Mike, did you charge for your program?
We charged for the sign.
Okay.
And so you chose what level of sign you wanted, double size, single size. And then I put an extra $5 on what it cost me for the sign to pay for the extra cost. So we weren't looking to come out ahead.
So a suggestion might be to bulk this somehow, because I can see where in a new community where they don't have the impact that all of your established ones do, there are a lot of businesses that are simply not going to pay $20 to participate because, if you build it, they will come hasn't sunk in yet. So is there a way to work through the Chamber of Commerce's where they pay one set fee and then they can split that as a benefit of membership, where you go through the chamber in order to participate somehow, so that the fee is less to encourage more of the reluctant businesses to truly participate?
Something to look into. I'll just maybe we could maybe you guys can help me take a note, Kristen, on that. We haven't really talked about something like that. We know that it's going to be critical for local proponents, for you all, to move this in your community. So this is not necessarily going to just happen. I mean, there are some places where it may happen, but it's going to take individuals, yourselves, to say, we have this program, we want to help educate you on this program, this is something you should consider.
Can you
right?
put yourself in our shoes for a second? So
Well,
I know the statistics, and I'm going to go talk to the businesses, and they're going to look at me pretty askance, and they're in a really tight economy in a small town that doesn't have a bicycle culture. So, I mean, I think it can be a very tough sell to get people to fork over the $20 until they've got some experience with this.
Right. So I don't know, Mike, if you have any thoughts on this particular issue. I'm not trying to create a debate here, but I don't know, you've had lots of success in getting people from your community. Do you strong arm them into it? Is that you're very compelling?
Some of the businesses like the Prairie City Hotel are now getting more cyclists than they are motorcyclists, and they make more money off of cyclists than motorcyclists, so they're an easy sell. But the lady that just wanted to provide water, I paid for that sign. So I didn't treat everybody the same.
Right. Kristen?
Yeah, I just, Mara, I want to point out that you can sign all the toolkits, answer the questions, and become a bike-friendly, recognized establishment without paying for a sign. So you can we'll have decals that can go in the window, so you can let people know. It doesn't say that.
It says $20 to do all that.
Oh, it does?
Yeah,
Did we decide that?
we've talked about having a minimum fee.
Oh,
And
okay,
your
sorry, I
decal
forgot
is
that.
The $20 and then the course is free? I mean, you could look at it either way.
Sure,
Well,
okay.
it's not free advertising. Well, you know that,
Yeah.
but.
Maura, it's gonna be a
I'm just
process,
saying,
yeah.
There's part of
Yeah,
the
so,
suggestion
yeah.
is, I don't wanna go in and tell a business locally, you don't know how to be friendly to a bicyclist, when they think they're really friendly to a bicyclist.
Sure, yeah.
No,
I
yeah,
get
I
it.
mean-
But there's people chomping at the bit to do the program all over the state. So we have to start with those who are really willing and wanting to get started, and then over time, as that culture shifts and people see the benefit, I think it will be an easier sell. But we're happy to work with you on a bulk order if the chamber wants to do something
Yeah.
like that. But we have hard
That would
costs
be
of
a
the
great
program, and we're sort of
opportunity.
taking this on behalf of the state. It's not necessarily something that is, directly a travel mission, and this has kind of happened with a lot of the cycling initiatives in Oregon, like Ride Oregon, and, we're doing the best we can to kind of support these general statewide initiatives, but they do cost money. So we're trying to set up a financially sustainable model, so you have to look at it from that side as well.
Yeah, question.
Well, if I could just offer a little bit of advice. Coming from sisters, we had businesses that didn't understand, weren't interested, and identifying the community leaders that maybe the other businesses could look to was really helpful. Finding those businesses that saw the value in a cyclist, they saw how important that was, have that communication and spend your efforts on those folks to really dive into that project and ask those folks to be your advocates. And that takes the heat off of you a little bit, and it gets the program really pushed out. And so I think that's the best advice that I could do, that we really found success with in the smaller community as well.
I think you do need, my focus would be to go talk to the city manager and say, this is what we're looking at doing. What happened before, because I don't want to talk to my merchants and find out we're having a struggle with that. I don't think we will, but we need to get the communication out to the city that actually has a delegation of how the signs are placed.
And
Maybe
it's-
that'd be my first stop before I can talk to my merchants.
This
because-
is definitely an optional program
Right.
too.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
no expectation from
Right.
state parks or Travel
Right.
Oregon or anyone that you have to participate.
But it's a
more-
great opportunity. I mean, that visibility is gonna be fantastic. Maybe you put a big sign at the front of the community that says, all businesses are welcome cyclists or something. Maybe you do something outside of that.
Yeah.
And they still have the decals on the doors, but you have to make sure with the city and the county, if you have that conflict, that you understand what their requirements are, what their allowances
Question
are.
in the back.
Yeah.
Scott, when does the program start?
Right, so we're hoping that we'll have a couple pilot communities start around June-ish, and with more of a rollout in probably post-summer, maybe September. Kristen, Harry, any additional thoughts on that
Did
timeline?
we do one of the pilot community initiatives?
Talk to Kristen.
So we
That's
have
one
a
of
lot
those
of
hard
people
no
throwing
questions.
themselves out as wanting to be the pilot communities. We already have a couple that we've committed to. So we're not at this time accepting any more pilots because we really do want to make sure it works before we roll it out. And it's only going to be a matter of a couple months. And your businesses working in the tourism industry are going to be very busy over the summer. So we'll have it ready for you in the fall, and you can dive in then. So.
So there's a bike-friendly business program to the league, right? Is there, how are we gonna differentiate?
Right, so the thing, actually, there's no that we know of that's branded like this. We know there are some efforts to reach out to businesses like New York, there's around the travel, the tourism customer. The programs that are established at the League of American Bicyclists has really geared towards employers and their employees. So it's commute to work, showers at your workplace, etc. We actually were interested, and we talked for a while with Adventure Cycling and the League about doing something like this, and it was like decided we can't really wait anymore because everyone's interested in it. But this is the only one that we know that's targeting the travel customer as opposed to the employee.
Right.
So that's how it's recognized differently, and it will be promoted as opposed to on the inner walls of the organization saying, you know, it's really intended to be more of an outward-facing program to the community.
And with that, I'm going to cut this off because unfortunately we're a little off the agenda. Harry is going to stay. Are you going to be here? Yeah. Okay. So during the meeting, if you have more questions, discussion on this is going to be officially launching in the fall, so we've got more time to talk about it. It's a really exciting program that's been one of those ideas that, yeah, it sounds great, but how do you do it? How does the signs work? How does everything work? So it's a lot of details, and thank you all for working on it. I did show up at some meetings and put in my 2 cents, but it was really Travel Oregon and Scott that got it going. With that, I'm going to do an agenda check. We are a little bit behind, but we do have a break after the next talk. Do we want to do our break now and then the talk, or do we want the next talk, which would be really good, about getting better roads? Do we want that? We want the talk first and then the break? Yes. Okay, I'm going with that. Okay, so the next talk, it starts with Sheila. Where did she just go? I just saw her. Where's Sheila? There she is. So this is a 3-part conversation. It starts with Sheila, who you've already met, talking about acts, and I don't mean anything about show business, and why they're important. And then we're going to have the 2 guys from Deschutes County that came over to talk more on the county level, but why don't I let you go ahead first.
Okay, well, I think I'm actually gonna do this. We'll just skip the part. Well, so one of the big, so I had I was in a training on how to review requests for proposals. You know, you get a consultant submits a proposal. How do you review those and not wind up on the front page of the Oregonian? So an odd training, but so the Public Works Director from Union County was sitting next to me, and I, of course, part of the class, you introduce yourself, and during one of the breaks, he turned to me and said, "Well, how do I get you to come out and ride our Scenic Bikeway?" I'd already ridden it because I'm on the committee that evaluates the routes, but then his next comment was, well, we're going to need shoulders on all those roads. So there's a lot of myths around cycling and how to share the road and how to motor vehicle drivers prevent, we hold motor vehicle drivers to a very low standard, right? We design everything as if they're, driving blind, and sometimes they are, and all that stuff. So, so the question is going to come up, and some of you are going to want to, you are even going to have facilities where you could have a scenic bikeway if you could address some of the deficiencies of the roadway. Some of you have roadways that are completely perfect the way they are, and yet there'll be many people that will come forward and say, well, we need shoulders on those roads, or we can't have bicyclists on those roads. So one of the pieces of information that, well, maybe I will go back to and see if I can pull this up, is on the Oregon Bicycle and Pedestrian Design Guide, which I'm going to try and pull up here. So I always search on Oregon DOT, so you get, you filter out Oklahoma and Ohio, and then Bicycle and Pedestrian Design Guide. Okay, that's your Google search, and hopefully it'll pop up. Look at that. Let's see. Here we are. Yep, this is it. Sorry, I'm at the right page already. This was updated in 2011, and it's been incorporated into the design manuals at the Department of Transportation. But in Chapter 1, on-road bikeways, figure, I'm going to try and just get right down to it. Just give me a second here. Whoops, I think I might be past it. On page 2. We have what we call the separation matrix that kind of gives you the starting place for whether your facility really does need bikeways, or bikeways, excuse me. I'll get there. Here we go. Oh, something happened. Oh boy.
Trying to bring up the matrix, so let's take seconds.
Yeah. So I don't use Windows 7. Okay, here we go. Can you see that? Pretty good. I know it doesn't quite fit. Okay, so does your facility need bikeways or walkways? A lot of you are in this area right down here. This is based on motor vehicle travel volumes, number of cars per day, and ideally the 85th percentile speed, or you can use posted speed. So very low volume or very low speed, right? The white spots, low speed and or low volume, high speed, low volume. You don't need any kind of separation at all. This is kind of a guide to how much separation do you need between cars and bikes. And you know, it's an art, not a science, and it's intentionally gray. And if I scroll up, so we will lose you can see that it gets to black up here. So you can imagine this is high volume, high speed. You start to need some separation. So this is what we use to then turn around and talk to the road authority and say, oh no, it meets the criteria in the Oregon Bicycle and Pedestrian Design Guide for shared roadway, right? That's what we call things where there's no separation, shared roadway. And as you get into higher volumes of traffic are really it, then you start to need more separation. This is one of the considerations the committee uses to determine whether we're gonna recommend the bikeway for designation. So if you make it to the point where the committee, the rating committee says, yeah, we like this route and we think the traffic conditions are just fine, we're gonna recommend it for designation, you've already kind of passed the sniff test on this chart. So the public works director in Union County, he's living down here, you know, his roads are all white, you know, under 1,000 cars a day, probably most of them. It's a waste of money to go out there and put a bunch of shoulders on those roadways. They're perfectly fine, people share just fine, unless someone pointed out they're probably more likely to hit a cow. And as you have a bikeway and you attract large numbers of cyclists and you get more and more cyclists out there, there is a safety in numbers. But let's say you've got a route that you really like, we had a route that was looked at Territorial Highway down in Lane County near Eugene. Well, we didn't even ride that route. We didn't like it that much. So there's some areas where you do need to get busy and start advocating for cycling as part of the roadway management and construction. And how do you do that? If you're working with if the roadway's owned by the city, you talk to the city public works and the city council and that process. If it's county, same thing. If it's ODOT, you go to the Area Commission on Transportation. And I have maps that I'm going to pass out to you. And likewise, you do a Google search on Oregon DOT, Area Commissions on Transportation. There's a really great website that'll pop up and it'll give you all the contact information, etc. But there's many different layers of organization at ODOT. We already talked about the districts. Then there's the areas. And this is kind of the public liaison role and the interface between ODOT and the public on determining what ODOT is going to spend its money on as far as maintenance and capital program. And it's divided up into areas, and each area gets an area manager. And that person is a staff to the Area Commission on Transportation, which are typically made up of local officials, either county commissioners, city elected officials, city councilors. There'll be some ODOT staff. And the most recent development is that each one of these Area Commissions on Transportation has been told that by the Oregon Transportation Commission, the Area Commissions on Transportation report to the Oregon Transportation Commission, which is the 5-member body that sets policy for the Oregon Department of Transportation. They report to the OTC. They have been asked by the OTC to become multimodal, and that means adding bike walk, membership, transit, potentially rail, probably a freight member, some of these kind of subject area memberships. And how many are in here are on a commission, Area Commission on Transportation now? So we've got 1, 2, 3.
So that is definitely a way to get your voice heard on what cyclists need and what the deficiencies are on the system in your area. They have regular meetings. They determine the capital program at ODOT. They've just gone through this big process where they've called for a project to be submitted, an application process, and they're going through those lists of projects and determining which ones they're going to support, which ones they're going to recommend to the Transportation Commission to fund. It's a brand new way to develop what we call the STIP at ODOT. The STIP is basically the capital program, not the maintenance money. Like, I don't know, 2/3, 4/5 of the money goes to maintenance, and then there's a little slice of off the top that goes to what we call, it's now called enhanced projects. And that's the pot of money you're going after. Get involved with the Area Commission on Transportation. Go to the website, familiarize yourself with when they meet, start looking at their agendas, start talking to the people that are on the commission. This is where the decisions are going to be made about how ODOT spends the little bit of money it has to add features to the roadway. The other piece of good news is that the Department of Transportation is becoming intermodal and multimodal, and that is reverberating throughout the agency in a lot of ways. One significant way is through the pavement unit. Pavement, that's the bulk of the money that ODOT spends, right? Is we own roadways. It makes sense that our big line item is paving. It used to be that the pavement management unit managed the pavement between the fog lines. They didn't manage the shoulder at all. And so little birdie told me that the head of the highway division moved to Salem when he got that job, and he's a cyclist, as many people at ODOT are. There's a lot of cyclists at ODOT. And he started riding the roads around Salem and realized, oh my God, heavens to Murgatroyd. He'd come from a more rural area, and he realized, oh wow, those shoulders are really important when you have higher traffic volumes, and the condition is really important. And so now the pavement management unit manages from the edge of pavement to the edge of pavement.
Oh, yeah.
Yay! Yes! And they got some seed money to kind of figure out exactly what that means to them. So that's a really good development, and I think you'll, as you talk to the area commissions on transportation, to the area managers, to the ODOT district maintenance staff, you're going to find a more welcome ear than you've ever found before, because now their job is to be pay attention in these areas. So if you've got a project, you've got to actually have shoulders. You need, probably you're talking about shoulders. In some areas you're maybe talking about bike lanes. You got to work through your Area Commission on Transportation to start that conversation, to build the case, to get the project. And it can take years, you know, it takes years to identify the issue, and it takes years to get something through the pipeline. It's not a quick process, but that's my 2 cents on how to get involved in roadway projects. Now, if it's a city or county, I think George will talk about county. And if it's a city, go to your city council, run for city council. Yeah, thank you.
And I just wanted to add that I think that's exactly what I do. She is on the city council.
Very good.
And on the annex.
Good job.
And Mike's on the annex.
It makes a big difference, for sure. And take your public officials for a ride. Get them out there. You know, I live in Corvallis. For years and years, the bike advocacy group in Corvallis, someone would have a tandem, and we'd take the mayor around on the tandem. They don't even have to ride a bike. Get a tandem and take them on the back, and show them what the conditions are. And it's a great way to build support. So I think I'm turning it over to Deschutes County.
We have just one or two questions for Sheila before we move on. I think we can make up the agenda time if we're real careful later on. So this is an important topic, and I don't want to cut into your time. So is there any questions, one or two questions for Sheila?
I'll also be at the Active Transportation Summit all this week. So.
And she'll, oh, yeah.
So you have your graph there, and
yeah.
When you're considering people's comfort level, and
yeah.
I'm just sort of curious, when you have routes that are proposed for families or kids use, if they're not comfortable with shared lanes, does that just mean then it's maybe not appropriate route for that type of audience, or how do you deal with
Yeah.
that?
Well, that's a good question. One of the real hot topics in the area of bicycling is comfort. And the idea that the vast majority of the populace would ride a bike if they didn't feel so intimidated by motor vehicle traffic. And is this going to get you there? Not really. This is one of the baby steps we've taken to kind of address how much separation is needed. And we did include things like cycle tracks and buffered bike lanes, which are those facilities that are more comfortable to a broader range of the public, on this chart, so that you can kind of know kind of the range of things you're aiming at. The current practice is bike lanes, shoulders, or shared travel lanes. And I think we're a ways away. In some communities, they're there with wanting more separation and they're aiming for a really large mode split. In other communities, it's an uphill climb still. And so I think it varies a lot. If you're doing a family-friendly bikeway, you probably want a lot of separation. And if you have a facility that you've got a piece of it that just doesn't meet that, then you've got to start working with the public officials to educate them so that you can get that facility that you need there. It could be a barrier, I think. One more thing about the matrix, it's not just this chart. We include on the second page, ooh, I knew that would happen, the list of kind of a laundry list of kind of various features of the roadway, land use and traffic operations, as well as roadway characteristics and bicycling demand that either increases or decreases your need for separation. So that's a nuance, but it's a challenge. I think we're at the very beginning stages of the whole comfort discussion, and maybe 10 years from now, this chart will look completely different, and we'll have our starting point will be much more separation than just a standard bike lane.
And with that, Sheila's going to be around for our walking meeting, so if you have more questions directed towards Sheila. Now, I'm going to, do you have the PowerPoint on this, or you just got handouts? Okay. Okay, so I'll bring that up as soon as I introduce you. Yeah. Did you put it in the folder? Okay, I'll pull it up. Let me just introduce you so people know exactly why I invited you today. And yeah, it's not because
I only have 20, so it's successful.
It's not because he rode to the Sea of Cortez on his bicycle. He did the Mogollon Rim. There's not many people that know where the Mogollon Rim is. I've been there.
It's Mogollon Rim.
Yep. So anyway, he's ridden all that, but that's not why I invited him here. It's because of all the acronyms in his bio. Like ODOT, we know what that stands for. TDB, we don't know what that stands for. TSP, Transportation System Plan, I have a feeling he's going to be talking about that. That's why I invited him here. This is Peter Russell, and your title is the Deschutes Senior Transportation Planner. Deschutes County Senior Transportation Planner.
There you
and
go.
I'll bring it up.
Okay, so a lot of you talked about kind of promotional literature and informal ways to promote bicycling. So on the planning side of the world, I'm going to give you kind of a legal way to make sure your plans endure, if you will, if your bikeways endure. So
is it this one?
And the way we get through that is I hold my system here. Which one are we looking for? Right there, State Scenic Bike.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. See some of this stuff.
Where's your thumb drive?
Okay. I will now do shadow puppets on the screen for a while.
Having thumb drive issues.
Having thumb drive issues.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Keep talking, I'll bring it up.
All right, so basically, Oregon, you can all be a transportation planner when I'm done. So Oregon has a land use planning program that's unique in the country. One of the things the state requires is cities and counties to do 20-year plans for their roadway facilities. These are cleverly called transportation system plans. Okay, in those TSPs, there's your first acronym, in the TSPs, you have to have all the modes covered. So it means cars, it means trains, it means air, and it also means bikes and peds. And so the way the transportation system plan is implemented is, here's your second acronym, the transportation planning rule. So what happens is cities and counties, every so often, thank you, go through this drill with a transportation system plan update. And so which one is the page ahead? See, now I got to, now I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So this is our first slide, so we're all caught up here. So in the Oregon system, you have to have a transportation system plan, which is a 20-year plan for how you're going to manage your facilities. Cities have to have them, counties have to have them, and it's something you want to get your scenic bikeways incorporated into because they'll endure. After you've all gone on to something else or there's turnover in the organizations, those plans remain. And so it's important to try and get them on there. So what we did in Deschutes County is we recently updated our transportation system plan, and in that, about the time we were doing it, there were proposals for the Three Sisters Scenic Bikeway, which were multiple bikeways that we submitted to the state, because for a lot of the bikeways, we were the road authority. We had to have, a letter from us saying we were okay with that. Alex's group reviewed them and, kicked some of them back and accepted some of them. So the ones they accepted were the three you've talked about today, and we put them in our transportation system plan map. We have a whole little map cleverly called State Scenic Bikeways. Talked about why they were important. I'm trying to save George time here. We also have county designated bikeways. And so these, what we see here, we put them on our map as an inset for Bend. So here you have your Twin Bridges scenic loop here. These blue roads are county bikeways. And the reason that's important is because none of us have money. The state doesn't have money, cities don't have money, counties don't have money. So what we usually have to do is apply for grants. And typically when you're looking at a grant application, you've got to get their buy-in. And one way you have their buy-in is by having your designated bikeway on a transportation system plan map. The other thing we did is on our county, we came up with special policies that George's shop has to do for roads that are designated bikeways, either state scenic bikeway or county designated bikeway, that we go through and do our normal pavement job, that if we can, we're going to widen the road out to add more shoulders. Because again, in our neck of the woods, our average daily traffic, ADT, your third transportation acronym, means how many vehicles you have on the road. We've got about 3,000 a day on ours, which if you're from a major metropolitan area is laughable. But for us, 3,000 is about an average on a road. Cyclist comfort, they still want a little more shoulders, so we said, okay, on the bikeways, we think you've got enough pavement down there to begin with, but to try and make it a little more enticing and uncomfortable for folks, we'll widen out those shoulders on our designated bikeways whenever we can, provided we have to do a lot of right-of-way purchase, cut and fill operations, move an irrigation ditch or something like that. But the second bullet, the one I really want to stress, is that when you're looking for funding to improve a road, it helps if it's designated in your plan as a scenic bikeway, if you're trying to get money from a group that funds bike improvements, or if you're from the state. So for instance, Sheila talked about the statewide transportation improvement program, or the STIP as it's known. We've submitted applications to ODOT and their bike ped program and say, hey, we want to improve this local road because under our pavement management cycle, we're not going to get to it for 20 years because it's a local road, which is our lowest classification. It's got an ADT of 400 or less cars, which means you can lay it out in the middle of the road for hours at a time practically. So we're not going to spend public dollars on that, but it's a bikeway. So that then jumps it up when you go and try and get some grant application. Yes, Robin?
I'm just thinking here, one of the things that when you get a scenic bikeway designation is immediately do your plan amendment, because you can amend that in.
Shh. I've got a slide. Shh, quiet, not yet, Robin. Okay, so, and then last is that a map indicates the importance of cycling, not only to the public, but to your elected officials, to funding agencies, so that endures. So the next question is, so how do you get a scenic bikeway on a map? Well, you work with your local planners to do that. You work with your road or public works department. Go to them early to get their buy-in. TSPs, transportation system plans, they're updated somewhat irregularly. It depends on the jurisdiction. If you're going to allow a county with not much traffic growth, when I worked for ODOT, that TSP is going to be valid for 2 generations. If you're in some other place that's high growth, you're going to have to update it a lot faster, but you want to work with them. Then what we have is the land use process that Robin's stealing all my thunder there, is a process called amending a TSP map. And that means you apply to the local jurisdiction to change the map designations or add a scenic bikeway. Okay, and the amendment process can be started either by the local jurisdiction if they're updating their transportation system plan map, or it can be done by a private party as an applicant. The advantage of having the local jurisdiction do it is you don't pay for it. You know, I just do it as part of my work duties. Or you can come through as a private party and initiate it. And what happens then is the TSP map amendment, it'll go through this public process where you'll have to do a burden of proof, and you go to a planning commission, there's a public hearing, and you pack the room and tell everybody why I think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. They make a recommendation to either their city council or county commissioners. They're the deliberative body. Again, you pack the room and tell them why this is the greatest thing since sliced bread in your oral and written testimony, and then the board or city council decides to put it on the map or not. Okay. And then what we've also done in our transportation system plan, you know, we added the county bikeways. We also added the state scenic designated bikeways, and we're also updating our bike guide, which is a free handout that we have. We're probably going to go online, which is, you know, back over here. And so we basically tried to tie the state designations. So again, see how these pop out in red? We wanted to make sure that we drew attention to them. The rest of these are the county bikeways we designated, and then have kind of suitability ratings based on traffic volumes, essentially. So with that, any burning questions? Okay. Yes, in the back there.
I guess I'm lost.
Okay.
Okay. Get on this TSP thing.
What you do is you go to your local jurisdiction, talk to either their city or county transportation planner if they have one. If they don't, any long-range planner can help you. You say, I want to amend your transportation system plan to put this bikeway on it. What do I do next? And then they'll kind of walk you through the process. So essentially, there'll be approval criteria the local jurisdiction has. You get to write a main term paper in essence, saying, you know, why you want to have this, and then that application is reviewed by the planning commission for your local jurisdiction, and then your city council or your board of county commissioners looks at it and they approve it. Then it goes on the TSP map, and you got to send a note off to the state and say, is this okay? And so that's how you amend it. It's a process that can take ballpark. You're looking at, you know, anywhere from 3 months to a year, depending on how complicated the TSP map amendment is.
So
The nice thing about these, there's not a lot of traffic analysis.
So just to kind of summarize what you just said, though, the very beginning is Anita's in Union County to pick up the phone, or in Baker County, and say, I want to talk to the planner about the TSP. I have something that needs to go in it. What do I do?
Right. Who do I talk to? Who's my next steps?
That's number one.
That's number one.
Okay.
Talk to your
Got
local
it.
planner.
And if our bikeway involves multiple jurisdictions like city, county, local commission.
You want to amend all of them if you can. I mean, we kind of lucked out with ours because we stopped at the city boundary, so we all had it internally. But yeah, if you want to have one that's going across jurisdiction, the cities and counties, you're going to have to amend all of theirs.
I had an ODOT guy tell me that, of course, bigger chip seal is less expensive, but smaller chip seal will last longer. Do you know anything about that?
I used to put my chip seal stuff.
Yeah, you're the next presentation. Hold that question for
No, I'm not George. George is much better looking. Any other questions? Okay, well with that, I'll turn it over to George.
Peter's going to be around for the walking meeting because there's a lot of technical stuff in what he just presented that's important to remember as bikeways are designated to follow up on this weird thing called the TSP. So this is George Cole, and he is the Deschutes County Engineer, and he's going to talk about those little black rocks in the back.
Excuse me.
What's that? Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
That wasn't liquor.
Yeah, I'm George Kolb. I'm the county engineer for the Deschutes County Road Department. And what I'm going to try and cover is to give you folks an idea, how do we come up with our road projects? How do we know if we're going to widen it? Are we going to add bike facilities? How do we determine what we're going to do to our roads? There's several maintenance operations we do on a road. The main one that everybody loves in the cycling community is a chip seal. Everybody loves it. And I was telling her that as soon as we chip seal a road, man, the phones light up. And we've actually worked with the cycling community to come up with some solutions, and it's actually worked out pretty well. The other one is when we go in and do an overlay of a road, or on roads that are in really bad shape, we'll actually go in and do a full depth reclamation where we grind up the whole entire road, put cement into the base, and then come back and pave it. And those, believe it or not, they generate material. You'd have to be on site to see it. We try and get extra width, paved width on our roads. We do take input from the public, cyclists, as far as like sweeping roads. We'll get calls from cyclists on, we want wider shoulders on these roads. When we go and decide, okay, what are we going to do for projects, there's three things we look at. One is what's the classification of the road, you know, top to bottom, arterial, collector, and local. We're going to put more emphasis on our arterial roads than we will a collector or a local. Next, we look at ADT, average daily traffic. You know, is it 5,000, is it 200, is it, 400? We look at that. And then we look at something called a pavement condition index, which is what we call the PCI. 2 years, the county had all its roads surveyed. And what that means is they drive it, they look at ruts, cracks, pavement edge. It's pretty much a snapshot of what that road is. And they'll rate it from 0 to 100. Our goal is to try and get most of our roads, all of our roads, up to an ADT or a PCI of 82. So when we start looking at our projects, okay, we'll pick a project, we'll look, okay, it's an arterial, high ADT, very low PCI. We'll take that project and then we'll look at, okay, can we widen it out for bicycle facilities? The things that come into play on that, like Peter was saying, is lack of right-of-way. A lot of old county right-of-ways, 40, 50-foot width. We don't have the width to do it, and it costs a lot of money to purchase the property from those people. The second issue is irrigation facilities. Central Oregon, all kinds of ditches. If we start having to move ditches, move weir boxes, things like that, that adds the cost. Or deep fills and cuts. It gets down to a basically cost-benefit ratio. How much are you going to spend to get maybe 1 foot of paved shoulder? So those are what we just do. That's what we look into, and we decide what projects are we going to do. A good example of a road that we widened was Camp Polk Road in Sisters. That road was like 28 foot wide when we started, and we ended up with a 32 foot wide road. So that one, we got a lot of calls. People were real happy with that project. The biggest project, or the biggest deal that we've done in working with cyclists is in our chip seal program. Our original chip seals in the can is being passed around. There's 2 of them. Our original to the cyclist, it's not as smooth. I mean, this will be like a new paved road. Nothing beats a new paved road when you're riding. And you can tell the difference when you have a small chip seal. So from that, we moved on to, okay, on roads like Camp Polk, roads where we'll have a 3 to say 5 foot paved bikeway, paved shoulder, we decided this year or 2 years ago to chip seal only the travel lanes. So we came in, but our concern is you have to seal that pavement to protect it. So what we started doing was we were doing a seal coat on the paved shoulders, and we would chip seal the travel lanes. 2 concerns that I had, because I ride, is are you going to have a lip between that chip seal and the seal coat? And you don't. It doesn't matter. The one thing we have found is you look at the chip seal portion, there's a crack in the road. You don't see it in the chip seal. Now we're starting to see that crack in the fog seal. So eventually we're going to have to go back in and chip the shoulders, but we're actually looking at a smaller size chip rock to do that. So, cycling is so big in Central Oregon, it's incredible. So we're doing that on our maintenance end of things. Events. Every time we get events, Peter and I review them, and a lot of times we'll look at them and say, okay, like this year we're chip sealing 100 miles of road. Some events we're not bothering them. One of them, Tour Deschutes, man.
Yeah, we hit the bell on that one.
Yeah, we did. But last year we were going to chip seal a road right before the event. We held off till after the event and then went in and chip sealed it. This year, we're going to be there. So we try and work with events. Another good example of working with cyclists is Skyliners Road. I don't know if anybody's ridden in Bend. Skyliners Road is a huge ride. It's a great uphill for 10 miles, great downhill, but it's the worst road. I think 0 to 100 is rated at 25 right now. I mean, it's really not even safe to ride anymore. We're going through the Federal Highway Department. We're going to rebuild that road, reconstruct it. We started out with 11-foot travel, 5-foot bike lanes through the public process. We're going 11-foot travel, 6-foot bike lanes. We'll stripe it as bike lanes. It'll be a bike facility. And that was all through the public process. So I think that pretty much covers. Yeah.
When you chip seal road and during hot days, you can see where the cars have compacted it. On a really hot day, could you roll the sides and have an impact on
Every chip seal we do, we roll first with a rubber tire roller, and then we have a steel wheel roller on it. So we roll the chip seals.
Does every county do that?
I don't know. But I know we have a rubber tire roller and a steel wheel roller that we roll them on.
Is it, when you said fog seal and shoulders, is that what the carbon seal is?
Yes. Yeah, the handout that I passed around was for a bicycle summit that was held, and it shows where we've tried a couple things. We've tried a carbon seal, we've tried a fog seal. The biggest trick we got is keeping the chip seal guys to keep that rock where it's supposed to be, because they always give me a hard time there, because I bike, none of those guys do, and we'll be driving down the road and we'll see the rock is kind of getting there, so we stop and then Precinct goes back there and then back out like that, and, so it's a work in progress, but we're really putting an effort into trying to keep the paved shoulders for cyclists.
Do you have any experience with respect to durability of the larger chip seal as compared to your smaller?
We really haven't had any problem going from the half quarter to the 3/8 number 8. I know the city of Redmond on all their streets uses, I think they're 1/4-10, which is a smaller rock. I'm not sure you're getting anything for your roads. Because if you look on that sheet, it also talks about when we pave a new road, in about 7 years, the pavement condition index goes down. You do a chip seal, it brings it back up. You do another chip seal in 7 years, it brings it back up. Eventually, the chip seal isn't any good. It's not. You need structure for the road, and that's when you come in and do an overlay. So you can probably get 2 to 3 cycles of chip seals on a road before you have to pave it.
This question is for you, George, or for Alex. If you're chip sealing one of our bikeways, how do we get the word out to people that how we get the
What we did this year, every year I'll send out a list of projects, anticipated projects to all the utilities and emergency services utilities to try and tell them, get a pipe or something underneath if you have to cut our road. This year we sent that chip seal list out to the news media, utilities, everybody. So we're sending our chip seal list out in addition to our overlay projects.
The other thing we do is Deschutes County has a bike ped advisory committee that meets every month.
Yeah.
So George or somebody from the road department comes to feedback, it's your board back, right? Goes to the bike ped advisory committee and says, here's our future chip sealing list for the upcoming riding season. So kind of disseminate it through that way as well.
And I think, if I may, is there any more questions that can't wait for the walking meeting to ask Peter or George?
One more thing I'd like to say is when you go to your road department, because we've had people call us up and say, hey, on this road you need to have 5 feet of pavement here, 2 feet of shoulder there, 3 feet of pavement over there. It's good if you come to us and say, look, here's our concern. We're not going to be able to, we can't be here. We kind of have to meet in the middle and look and talk about the road because there's a lot of constraints for us on funding. There's things we can do, there's things we can't do.
Is there forums within the transportation world where you can share what you're doing with other transportation districts that might be interested in doing the same thing?
Not that I know of.
Conferences, that's usually what happens.
Yeah.
We use it at several road department conferences. I'll go to a planning conference and kind of have the chats, then you mix and match, and we do it in your jurisdiction. So there's something formal like that, but there's not like a listserv that goes out to everyone.
If I may, I haven't run this by you guys yet, but first to say that I've been talking to a lot of the different counties, and I feel like the biggest difference between Deschutes County staff, the planners, the engineers, and the other counties is that they're in more direct communication with cyclists, number one. Number two, there's a lot of cyclists that work for Deschutes County. But you can really work on one of them, is to get that communication going. And here's the part that I didn't run by you guys. is there's so much good information there. You can ask them more during the walking meeting, but maybe, ideally, I could send out your contact information.
Sure.
And use you as a resource for everybody in this room as they're going to talk to their counties and the counties to tell them a bunch of stuff, and that they need a vocabulary guide to understand. They can call you and say, now, what did our county just say? Or what did you say about this smaller chip seal that I can pass on to our county? And you can all work as that liaison with the different counties.
And you can go on the county website and get both of our address, email address, or phone number.
And with that, we are at our break.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.